Hello, my friends. It's Nick. It's the ASMR nerd. And today I'm going to be quietly rambling about video games. I know, totally unprecedented for this channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 games of the Summer Games season 2024, which is really June pretty much these days. This time of year, of course, would historically have been when E3 occurred, the Electronics Entertainment Expo, but E3 is dead and gone now, and in its place we have this sort of month or so of game announcements from major publishers like Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, as well as other smaller groups with sort of specific themes like the Wholesome Direct and the PC Gaming Show and that sort of thing. So, but suffice it to say, it's the time of year when a bunch of new games get announced and a bunch of previously announced games get gameplay reveals or deep dives and that sort of thing. And so it's a great time to be a gamer. Now, a few weeks back, I did a video where I reacted to the Xbox Games Showcase. That was a banger. There was some really good stuff in that showcase, and some of that is definitely going to show up again in my top 10 list right now. But since then, I've had a chance to watch the Nintendo Direct. I checked out a bunch of Sony's announcements. I checked out some of the Wholesome Direct games, the PC Gaming Show, the IGN's thing, Summer Games Fest, Jeff Keighley's thing. So I've had a chance to kind of get a sense of what's been announced. And man, I tell you, video games, they're pretty good. there's a lot of them. And I had a really hard time whittling it down to my top 10 list here, which is a good thing. It's a good problem to have. Now, by way of disclaimer, I should make it really clear, of course, I've not seen every game that was announced or detailed this past month. There's just too many of them. It feels like every year there's more. There's like hundreds of games revealed or showcased in this time of year these days. So I'm sure there's some I haven't seen. These are just the ones that really jumped out at me of the ones that I saw. Also worth noting that earlier in the year, back in January, I put out my top 10 most anticipated games video for 2024. So that was confined to games that had announced release dates for this year. And to, mix things up a little bit, in today's video, I'm not going to include any of those games. So just because those games don't show up in today's video, it doesn't mean that I'm not still excited about them. I am. Just that I wanted to showcase some different stuff here. And these games are games that were either revealed for the first time during this sort of Summer Games season here, or they've got some really good detailed gameplay reveals for the first time at least. And they could be coming out this year. They could be coming out next year. They might not even have a release date yet for some of them. So, but yeah, it's not like hard and fast rules or anything. It's just kind of, I don't know. These are the games that I hadn't already talked about in that previous video that are exciting to me that were shown off during the Summer Games season. Okay, that's a fair bit of rambling there. But before we dive in and get going here in earnest, I have a happy birthday that I must wish here. First of all, happy birthday to Canada. I am Canadian. It is Canada Day tomorrow, if you're watching this video on the day it comes out anyway. So happy birthday, Canada. Happy Canada Day, Canadians, and honorary Canadians as well. But when it's Canada Day, that also means that 4 days later, it's our big sibling's birthday, our sibling to the south, the 4th of July. And now you might be wondering, why, as a Canadian, do I care about the 4th of July? I care about our American friends, of course. But there's another reason why non-Americans and Americans alike might want to get excited about the 4th of July. And that is because it's the 4th of July sale from this video's sponsor, Into the AM. That's right, Into the AM. They of the gorgeous graphic tees, such as this beautiful, colorful, spacey, patriotic Lady Liberty shirt that I have on right here, have their 4th of July sale on right now. And you can save 30% off site-wide on all their stuff and up to 80% off on select items as well. They, of course, have these gorgeous graphic tees that they are renowned for. These curated, exclusively licensed, extremely comfy, extremely easy to care for graphic tees. But they've also got all kinds of other stuff. They got their premium button-up shirts. They got their premium everyday shorts that I've been loving. They got their joggers. They got hoodies. They got cargo shorts. They got tank tops. They got so much stuff. All of it is on sale for their 4th of July sale, and you can save an additional 10% off your entire order. Your entire order on top of the rad sales they've got going on by using the link down below at the top of the video description. Not only will you save that extra 10%, but you will be supporting me and this channel here as well, which I really appreciate. So thank you if you choose to do that. But seriously, take advantage of this sale. Fantastic way to get some summer gear, some beautiful, comfy, easy to care for clothes. You guys know the deal by now. I've been doing these kinds of promos with Into the AM for years. And that's because I really like their stuff. You see me wearing their tees all the time. I literally wear it every day, not just on these videos, like just around the house, or when I'm out, I wear it to work, I wear it out and about, because it is super high quality, it looks fantastic, it is ultra comfortable, and it's really easy to care for. What's not to love about it? And now you can save big on Into the AM's 4th of July sale. So make sure you click through on that link down below, peep their new graphic tees, all their new summer collection, and save some money while you're at it. Big thanks to Into the AM for supporting and sponsoring today's video. Incidentally, this is one of Into the AM's new designs as well, and I'm freaking loving this. I'm gonna be wearing this for the rest of the video. Check it out. It's a space octopus. I think this one actually glows in the dark too. But I had to swap to that Statue of Liberty one for the 4th of July sale. It was just too perfect, right? Anyway, cool t-shirts, but you know what else is cool? Video games. So let's jump into it. The first game on my list here is Ara History Untold. This is a historical grand strategy game being developed by a studio called Oxide Games. Now, I think this is their first game, but the owner of Oxide Games is an experienced developer from the Civilization series. I believe he was involved in Civilization 5. And so and it really shows in the gameplay that we've seen from Ara History Untold. This game looks like a spin on the classic Civilization formula. It's got some neat new features it's bringing to the table for multiplayer. It's got simultaneous turns, which is pretty interesting. It's got these variably shaped and sized tiles that aren't just hexagons. It's got this interesting kind of civilization-wide crafting system. So it's got some fresh ideas that it's bringing to the table for historical 4X, historical grand strategy. And it just looks like an interesting take on that. And I've kind of been jonesing for a game like that. So it's also pretty vibrant and colorful. It's got some neat looking graphics. So I'm just kind of curious to check it out. Aura History Untold is coming out this September on Microsoft Windows exclusively. Actually, I don't think it's coming out on any consoles, at least not yet. Probably a challenging thing to put on consoles just because of the way the UI, the complexity of the UI. Although, as we'll see later in the video, a competitor is coming out on consoles. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, I'm keen to see what Aura History Untold is gonna bring to that genre. It looks promising. And number 9 is a game that was revealed for the first time during the Xbox showcase. And it's called Clair Obscur Expedition 33. That's a pretty weird sounding name. And I have a hard time remembering it. I don't know if that's going to hurt this game and its marketability. But this game is wild. First of all, it's beautiful looking, has an incredible art style. But basically, it looks like a hybrid JRPG with sort of a like turn-based, but with action elements, combat system. It's kind of like a European take on a JRPG in some ways. I believe it's developed by a French studio called Sandfall Interactive, and as far as I can tell, this is their first game, but it, demoed or showcased really, really well. The gist of it, from a story perspective, as I understand it, is there's some painter lady who's like some kind of goddess, maybe, or powerful being, and she paints, I guess, the fate of this setting, this world, and in doing so, she paints like tragedy and terrible things, I guess, and the people of this world don't seem very thrilled with what this powerful lady is painting and the future she is creating with her paintings. And it's all kind of obscure, which I guess is in the name. But perhaps will make a bit more sense when the game launches in 2025. But it's super stylish looking. I thought the action looked really compelling. The interface looked really, really interesting. Even really strong sense of visual design there. And it just caught my attention. It was something different. Something different from a lot of the other games being demoed. So that is called Clair Obscur Expedition 33. It's coming out on Microsoft platforms exclusively, so the Xboxes and Windows. And that's releasing sometime next year. Coming in at number 8, I have Age of Mythology Retold, which is one of 2 remakes that made it onto my list. We live in the age of remakes, of course. Age of Mythology Retold is exactly what it sounds like. It's a remake of the original Age of Mythology, which came out, I want to say, way back in 2002, perhaps. I'm gonna have to fact check myself on that, but in that era, I think it was 02. And it was, of course, the game that came out from Ensemble Studios. after Age of Empires 2. And Age of Mythology was super cool for me because I have a love of ancient mythology, and at that age, that love was burgeoning. I was discovering lots of cool stuff, and it just hit at just the right time for me to be really into that. And it was also the first 3D game from the Age of Empires studio, and that combination of just these beautiful for the time 3D graphics mixed with this super fantastical mythological setting and that Age of Empires-esque gameplay really just hit the spot. I loved Age of Mythology. So AOM Retold is a modern remake that remakes pretty faithfully, I think, all the missions from the original game and its expansion, but makes a few changes and adds in some new stuff. It changes god powers so that they can be used multiple times in a match. I believe it adds a whole new age. I guess they call it the Wonder Age, which is going to be like amped up even more for end game kind of insanity. And of course, a whole graphical overhaul and sound overhaul and sort of modern, niceties and quality of life features that you would want out of a modern RTS. So I'm really looking forward to that. What they've showed looks really good. It seems like they're putting a lot of love and effort into this remake. It's not just a mere remaster. It really is a remake that aims to be faithful to the original while bringing in some strong new updates and changes. It's also going to have some post-launch DLC that are going to add some new civilizations, so that's pretty exciting. That's got a release date of September 4th of this year. And once again, it's coming out on Microsoft platforms. So going in at number 7, another Microsoft platform game. I promise we do have some other stuff in here. It just so happens that these ones are all sort of near the top of the list here, or bottom of the list, whatever. Number 7, a game that was revealed last year, but we really got a good look at the gameplay this year. And it's called South of Midnight. This is a new action-adventure game from Compulsion Games. Previously, Compulsion put out We Happy Few, and before that, I think Contrast. So I think this is their third game. And it is a fascinating looking game. It is set in the Deep South, and it's billed as a modern folktale that draws on a lot of the folk history and folk tales of the Deep South, of the sort of Gothic South setting and vibe. And it is very much a journey into the dark bayou kind of vibe. But it just has such a cool visual aesthetic, a really cool musical identity as well. It's kind of got this stop motion look to it. Not kind of, it does. It has a stop motion look, which really stands out. The gameplay they showed seemed really slick and polished. It's got kind of an action combat system. And you play as this protagonist. I don't know her name, but it looks like she's got some kind of magical ability that infuses her combat. And it just looks really neat. What the overarching story is, I'm not sure what the overall gameplay experience is going to be like, it's hard to say. I don't think it's open world. It looks pretty linear to me, but that's okay. You know, it could be pretty strong in that sense. So we shall see. But it certainly caught my eye when it debuted last year, and then the gameplay this year just made me more excited for it. It looks really unique. So that is South of Midnight from Compulsion Games with a 2025 launch window. So we'll see that next year. Number 6 on my list. Finally, we're out of the Microsoft slew here. The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. This game was revealed during the Nintendo Direct, unsurprisingly. And this is a new top-down Zelda game in the style of Link's Awakening, especially that Link's Awakening remake that was launched on Switch, I want to say last year. Has a very similar graphical style, but this is, by all appearances, a Zelda game that stars Princess Zelda and does not star Link. And so that right there is pretty fun, kind of a unique spin on that very traditional series. You play as Princess Zelda, and you're working to save the world from some kind of terrible corruption and maybe rescue Link while you're at it. So a little inversion of the typical arrangement. And as Zelda, you have a pretty cool power, which is you can clone any object or enemy in the game by the looks of it. So like boxes and chairs and things like that, so you can stack them up to reach higher areas, or clone enemies to fight on your behalf. Seems like a really fun and potentially interesting mechanic. I can imagine all kinds of fascinating puzzles based around that mechanic. And I just think it looks cheerful and fun, and I think that gameplay looks really interesting. And I think they can tell a fun story with Zelda being the protagonist as well. So that is, of course, coming to Nintendo Switch exclusively. That is releasing September 26th of this year. It's coming up pretty quick, actually. It's not very long between reveal and launch. I like that they did that. So definitely be picking that up for the Switch in September. Gosh, that's 3 September games so far on this list. Aura History Untold on the 24th, Zelda on the 26th, and AOM Retold earlier in the month on September 4th. Busy month. Number 5. We're halfway through this list. I feel like we're whipping through it pretty quick. But number 5 is Doom. The Dark Ages. This was right up at the top of the Microsoft Xbox conference. And this is, of course, carrying on from Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, this modern style of Doom game from id. And it looks awesome. It looks extremely metal, as one might expect. It is, a prequel, I guess, technically, if we're paying attention to the Doom guy lore. And it is set way back in like medieval times. It's got that Dark Ages vibe, and you are fighting all kinds of demons. But of course, you've also got a crazy arsenal of, Doom type weapons, including one that I freaking loved. It's like a skull grinder that you see in part of the trailer, where you're like, got this grinder gun, and it's like feeding skulls into it and like blasting them out. Skull shards, I guess. Ridiculous. From the trailer, we saw some interesting stuff that looks like it might be changing up from the more kind of corridor shooter, or like not corridor shooter, but like arena shooter stylings of Doom Eternal, in that the areas look a lot more open in the Dark Ages trailer. So maybe there's sort of longer range combat, more open spaces. It looked like maybe slightly less frantic than Doom Eternal. Doom Eternal can be extremely, extremely fast-paced and frantic. Like, you really have to like be on top of your like action economy to make sure that you survive some of those fights. Hard to say, just from the short trailer, but it did look maybe a little more spaced out, a little bit slower paced. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. And then, of course, the big reveal with that was you get a flying mount, like a dragon. And so that implies that there's going to be probably some kind of more open worldy element. You need space to fly around, right? Unless it's kind of on rails. I guess it could be, but that would be a little disappointing. Anyway, it definitely looks like they are expanding what a Doom game can be. And those games just play so good. They feel so good. So I'm really excited to see what id Software does with Doom, the Dark Ages. That is coming out 2025 for, once again, Microsoft platforms, Xboxes, and Windows. Interesting to note that Microsoft has been putting some of their former exclusives on PS5 more recently, kind of as of late. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of these, what appear to be exclusives, like console or ecosystem exclusives for Microsoft, do eventually become multi-platform releases. Maybe there's timed exclusives. We shall see. Number 4 on my list, Assassin's Creed Shadows. This is the hotly anticipated new Assassin's Creed game from Ubisoft, specifically developed by Ubisoft Quebec, whose last game was AC Odyssey, which was very well received. Assassin's Creed Shadows is, of course, set in Japan, feudal Japan, and people have wanted an Assassin's Creed game set in Japan for a very, very long time. It's kind of a natural fit. But now that it's here, I have noticed a fair bit of skepticism, let's say, a number of naysayers out there, who I think are understandably a little tired of the Ubisoft Assassin's Creed formula, and maybe a bit cynical about Ubisoft as a studio. I understand that perspective, and I do think that Ubisoft has some goodwill to earn back with gamers for a variety of reasons. But I think objectively what they're showing with this AC Shadows does look pretty cool. I don't know. I think it does. But, I like these kinds of games. So I'm ready for another one here. This game differs from the last few with the inclusion of 2 main protagonists. There's sort of a shinobi girl, sort of ninja type, stealthy looking lady, and then there's a kind of up in your face brawler samurai guy. And so presumably, depending on how you want to tackle different challenges, you will be able to play one or the other and go about things quite differently. They have different combat skill sets, of course, and different play styles. Beyond that, I don't think we know a whole lot about the story, or the extent of the map, what areas it will cover, or anything like that. But I just think what they've shown looks neat, and I like the setting. I like the series, so I'm quite excited for it. Again, I get it if you're not into it. They really have been going back to the well on their open world Assassin's Creed design for the last little while. I think a lot of people got pretty burnt out with Valhalla. And this is going to be one of those big open world style ones, you know, icon barf on the map, I think, rather than a somewhat more focused throwback style experience like Assassin's Creed Mirage. So, anyway, that has a launch date, November 15th, 2024. That's coming out for all current gen platforms except the Switch. No Switch port there. All right, we're cracking the top 3. Coming in at number 3 is our second remake on this list. Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake. Now, that's a pretty awkward name. This game was revealed quite some years ago. I want to say like 3 or 4 years ago, maybe. Very brief reveal trailer, and then silence for years. People were understandably starting to get a little bit concerned that maybe it wasn't going to come to fruition, that it had been stealth canceled or something like that. Happily, that is not the case. And in this year's Nintendo Direct, this month's Nintendo Direct, I should say, we got a big reveal with lots of new gameplay, as well as the reveal that coming in next year, 2025, we will also be getting a Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD remake package combo by the looks of it. So what is this HD 2D remake? Basically, it's taking the old Dragon Quest games, the first 3 of them, which are classic JRPGs from the 80s, and it's remaking them in this modern, like 2D sprites in 3D world style that I think a lot of people associate with the Octopath Traveler games. And indeed, these Dragon Quest HD 2D remakes are being made by Team Asano, which is the team at Square Enix that has been responsible for the Octopath Traveler games. I think the Bravely Default games as well. So they have quite a pedigree for making stellar JRPGs. And the HD 2D remake for Dragon Quest III looks really good. What they've shown looks fantastic. Now, I admit that this game is so high on my list exclusively because of nostalgia. I love those original Dragon Quest games, which were known as Dragon Warrior here in North America for many years, because I played them on my Game Boy Color specifically, 1, 2, and 3. I played all of them. I eventually went back and actually played Dragon Quest 1 on the NES, just to see what that experience was like. And Dragon Quest, of course, has such a seminal place in the history of RPGs, specifically Japanese RPGs. Some might say, and I believe it would be true, that the first Dragon Quest game was the first archetypical JRPG from which so many other games would descend, like Final Fantasy, and so many others. And so it has this very, like, storied history. But beyond that, it was such a convergence of talent. And the art of the Dragon Quest games was, of course, famously done by the dearly departed Akira Toriyama. And so in some ways, I feel like, these HD 2D remakes are probably going to be a really fitting tribute to his work on that series over the decades. So, anyway, it looks like they're doing a fantastic job with it. It just looks so beautiful. I love that style. And I am very excited to dive back into those classic games and enjoy them in this updated visual presentation. In terms of other changes, I don't think they're changing much. I think they're keeping it pretty faithful to the originals, but I could be wrong. Maybe I'll be surprised when we get to it. They haven't said too much about that, I don't think so. Anyway, that is coming out this year on November 14th, which is actually the day before Assassin's Creed Shadows. So, man, it's a couple busy months towards the end of the year here. That is coming out on all current gen platforms. All right, number 2. This might have been my number 1 if there was more shown. But at number 2 here, I have Sid Meier's Civilization 7, which, wow, we've waited so long for this announcement. I believe Civ 6 launched in 2016, I'm pretty sure. And Civilization, of course, the great grandfather of historical 4X strategy. And I've played every entry in the series over the years. And I was starting to wonder what was going on at Firaxis because it has been so long. It's been 8 years. 8 years since Civ 6 launched, which is really out of the ordinary, for the cadence of releases of Civ games. It's typically not that long a wait. So I'm very glad there's signs of life now with Civilization 7. It has been formally announced with a 2025 release window, but we didn't get to see any gameplay. It was exclusively a cinematic reveal trailer at Jeff Keighley's Summer Games Fest. Now, I believe we are going to get some gameplay soon. I want to say it's either in July or could be with Gamescom in August. But I think it might be before that, actually. In fact, I forgot to go check that before I recorded this video. I meant to go look into that. So there will be some gameplay reveals coming. But right now, all we have to go on is a very Civ-style cinematic teaser trailer, which is just a very, the course of history and humanity's struggles and achievements, and look at all these, wonders from different cultures around the world and pivotal moments in history. So probably the reason it's not my number 1 is really because we don't know anything about it yet. We don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know what they're changing. Civ has traditionally been a very iterative series, so the core remains very much the same from one to the next, but lots of the stuff around that core changes. So I'm excited to see what they've cooked up this time. I like Civ 6 well enough. It's pretty good, but not everything quite hit for me. I don't think the district system ever really quite clicked for me. I think Civ 5 is still the high water mark as far as I'm concerned. But Civ 6 was solid. And but I really hope they knock it out of the park with Civ 7. I would love a new definitive Civ experience that just it gets me back on that one more turn, train. Yeah, I'm looking forward to a good new Civ game. So 2025, but I will be eagerly awaiting the gameplay reveal. In the meantime, that's coming out on all current gen consoles, including Switch, interestingly, and Xbox One. the end of the trailers is coming out for Xbox One. That's wild to me, but not PS4. Strange, huh? Very weird. Anyway, exciting. Finally, my number one most anticipated game from the Summer Games season here, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. This was a game that I knew was coming, but up until the gameplay trailer this month, we didn't have a release window. We now know it is launching 2024. Actually, that might not be true. Sorry, it is true that it's launching 2024. It might not be true that we didn't have a release window before that. I think they might have actually announced that back like March or February, because I think they did like some kind of Xbox Directy type thing. Anyway, whatever. The point is, we got a nice long look at a sequence from the game during the Xbox Game Showcase this month, and it basically it looks like an Indiana Jones movie. It captures the spirit of the best Indiana Jones films, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Last Crusade, so well. From the campiness and the humor to even just the mannerisms of Indy and just the way it's shot, even like they're just nailing it. And of course the fantastical settings and artifacts and all that stuff. Now the big outstanding question is, how's it gonna play? Like, it's all well and good to make a new indie movie in their engine, but is the gameplay actually going to be any fun? Harder to say. They have showed snippets of gameplay. We've seen some first-person Nazi punching. We've seen some whip action. We've seen a little bit of gunplay. We've seen some puzzle stuff, a little bit of maybe light platforming. It's all first-person, which I think is a really bold choice by Machine Games here. But it is what they have most experience with. Of course, they have done a bunch of the Wolfenstein games in the last decade or so. And so they definitely have that first-person shooter pedigree. And also that Nazi killing pedigree. So, it is a pretty natural fit, actually, I think, for Machine Games. And it seems like they're doing a really cool job of it. So, but I will say, even if the gameplay itself is not stellar, if the cutscenes and the presentation and the story and the general vibe of it all is as good as what they showed during the Xbox Game Showcase, I will be happy. Even if it's just like this extended Indiana Jones adventure film that really captures the spirit of the original movies, I will be happy. I hope it's better than that. I hope that the gameplay also is really solid, but we shall see. Anyway, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle coming out this year. Weirdly, I don't think there's an actual date on it yet. Just a 2024 release window. We're kind of running out of time here, so I feel like they're going to have to put a date on that pretty soon. We're over the halfway point now in the year. That, of course, also coming out on Microsoft's platforms exclusively, at least initially. Probably long-term as well. And that is my top 10 games of Not-E3 2024. However, like I said, I had a really hard time picking these, and there were some very strong games that did not make the cut, or could have made the cut if I just, was in a different mood or something. But, so really quickly, I have a list of honorable mentions here. There's 8 of them, almost as many as on my main list, but I'm not going to get into details with these. I'm just going to quickly list them out here. Perfect Dark, a Perfect Dark soft reboot coming from Microsoft. I love the original Perfect Dark on N64. I have great memories playing it with my buddy back in the day. I never played Perfect Dark Zero on Xbox 360. This new Perfect Dark looks a little different, but has some familiar stuff going on. I thought that the gameplay trailer they put out was really interesting. It's clearly some cool immersive sim stuff going on. My interest has been piqued. I'm going to keep an eye on this Perfect Dark soft reboot. No release date on that yet, TBA. Fable, the Fable reboot, soft reboot, I'm not even quite sure what it is, continues to look delightful. We've seen a little bit of it before. We saw a bit more of it this year. Still not much in the way of actual gameplay, but man, that game looks fantastic. The graphics look excellent. It's clearly got a fun sense of British humor. And I want to see more. I want to see more actual gameplay. That one's dated for 2025, and I'm quite keen to see more of that. This was a new one that was revealed this year in the Xbox Game Showcase. Winter Burrow. You might have seen this in my showcase, Xbox Games Showcase reaction video. But Winter Burrow is a very cozy, charming looking 2D kind of top-down game where you play a little mouse. Looks like it's set in the winter time. You are building a little home, a burrow. You are trying to, I think, find your aunt and meeting other denizens of this area. I don't know much more about it than that. All I know is it's got a lovely artistic kind of style, very painterly, and it looks really charming. So I'm here for a cute mouse game. That is dated for Q1 2025. Another one that caught my attention is called Deer and Boy. Deer and Boy. I just happened to see the trailer for this one. I really don't know what it's about, other than about a deer and a boy. And it looks like, at first I thought it was going to be really sad, but then it looked like maybe it would be kind of hopeful. It's got this very dark looking art style. It's not a side scroller exactly. I think it's more like 3D, like it's not third person either. I don't know, it was hard to tell from the trailer. But there's a deer and there's a boy. And this boy rescues this deer, I think, when it's very young. And then this deer grows up to become this boy's companion and to help him in his quest, whatever his quest might be. At the end, you see what looks to be some kind of like eldritch horror. I don't know what this world is, what this setting is. All I can say is that the trailer really piqued my interest. And I want to know more about it. So, Deer and Boy, check it out. Fairly emotional kind of trailer. No date on that one yet. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. This one could have been on my list. The original game was pretty unique in being a medieval RPG without the sorcery. It's like a sword and sorcery game without the sorcery. It's a very grounded medieval RPG. Deliverance 2 looks to carry on in that tradition, directly carries the story of Henry onwards, and looks kind of like more of that. But I'm keen to see what Warhorse manages to do with the sequel. So that's coming out sometime this year. Don't think we have a specific date yet. Screenbound. This one also caught my eye because it's got a really unique looking mechanic. Basically, from what I can tell from the trailers, you are playing a first-person game in a 3D environment. It's kind of a platformer-like environment, but in the 3D environment, you are holding what looks like a Game Boy, and there's a 2D game being played on the screen of this Game Boy, and your motions in the 3D world directly map onto your motions in the 2D platformer game on your Game Boy. And I think the goal is you've got to navigate both the 3D world and the 2D world basically simultaneously so that you can get to your goal in both. I think that's how it is working. It's kind of mind-blowing actually to look at it and be like, what the heck is going on here? Anyway, it was just one of those mechanics that I saw and I was like, whoa, that is very unique. I've never seen anything quite like that before. And it kind of messes with your head a little bit. So I think that looks cool. I don't really know what more to say about it than that because I don't quite know how it's going to play out. But mechanically, that really grabbed my attention. That's called Screenbound. No date on that yet, but very interesting looking. Ale Abbey. Ale Abbey is a game that appears to be exactly what it sounds like. You play monks of a monastic order that brew fine ales. And it's kind of a management sim where you are managing this abbey, brewing all kinds of sacred beers. And I just like beer. I think that's a cool concept. I would love to see more of that. I think that game's coming out this year, so I reckon I'll probably pick it up and check it out. Could be a fun game to stream, maybe. Ale Abbey. Finally, I feel like this game's made it onto one of my lists in a previous year. Star Trucker. Star Trucker. This game does have a demo out right now. I haven't played it yet. I probably should, but I kind of just want to wait for full release at this point. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's kind of like Euro Truck Simulator or American Truck Simulator, but you're in space and you gotta worry about space things like zero gravity and batteries and ship systems and things. That sounds great to me. I like those trucking games. I like sci-fi, space stuff. Put them together. Sounds delightful. Star Trucker coming out September 3rd of this year. Those are my honorable mentions. There were more that I had on my list, but I had to even cut back from that. I really couldn't just keep going with honorable mentions forever. So, hey, I told you I was giving you my top 10 games of Not-E3 2024. I've now given you 18 games, but it was a good showing. Like I said, gaming is good. Now, a lot of studios are struggling right now. I have not mentioned that, but it's worth acknowledging that game development is perhaps more fraught than ever. But nonetheless, we've got lots of excellent looking games in the pipeline, which is a testament, I think, to the developers that managed to create amazing works of art despite the challenges and the hard times. So gaming as a hobby, I don't think has ever been better. Game development as a career has definitely been. It's weird times in gaming in that way, but in the games industry. But we have a lot to look forward to here. These all look fantastic. I will be checking them out as the year goes on and into next year as well. Some of these are definitely next year launches, and I'm sure you'll see some of them here on the channel as well in one form or another. So this is the part of the video where I implore you to let me know what you saw during the Not-E3 season, the summer games season this year, that you are most hype about. What really caught your attention? Some of you already shared some of those things with me during the Xbox showcase video in the comments there. But I would like to hear from you here. Now that we've had the Nintendo Direct, some of these other conferences, I'm sure y'all are excited about some other stuff. So what did I miss? I'm sure I missed some stuff. Like I said, I can't see it all. What ought to be on my list and what is on yours? Let me know down below in the comments. And while you're down there, don't just skip on by that link at the top of the video description. Click on through, check out what our friends at Into the AM have for you as well on their 4th of July sale. Save some sweet money while you're at it. Get some awesome clothes. All right, friends, I hope you enjoyed this video game ramble in the grand tradition, and I look very forward to having you back here next time. Farewell for now. Now, while I am very thankful for the support of video sponsors like Into the AM, I am also extremely thankful for the support of this channel's supporters on Patreon and YouTube memberships. You can see all of them listed right here. It means a lot to me that these people believe in what I do, want to see me create more of it, support what I do with this channel here, and give me some freedom from having to worry about finding sponsors. And it allows me to create the kinds of videos that I really enjoy doing the most, and that you all hopefully enjoy watching and listening to as well. And if you, dear viewer or listener, would like to join up and become one of these amazing supporters, you will find links down below to my Patreon and YouTube memberships in the video description. There you will find 3 tiers, each with some fun perks. You can check it out. I'm sure you will find a tier that is right for you. At the Fusro tier, the most magnificent tier of them all, well, those individuals get their names read out in a special spoken shout out in each and every one of my videos. I try to mix it up each time, do it in a slightly different order. It is my honor today to read these to you, and I'm going to interleave the different names from the YouTube and Patreon lists. I've never done this before. Let's begin. Starting with Jake Luffney, Ragnar Ragnarsson, Drummer Britt, Smitty, Odinson, Captain Vanquisher, K-Time, and last but certainly not least, Bruce Buchner. These kind of individuals are so very generous, so very supportive, and it is my pleasure to read their names out in each of these videos. Big thanks once again to our Fusro tier patrons and YouTube members, but everybody that you see here. Thanks, channel supporters.